Welcome to Transform Now, a podcast focused on intelligent automation and brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. On this program, we talk about how organizations globally are rethinking the way they operate, utilizing process orchestration and AI-enabled digital workers to free up humans to do the work that matters most. We also share insights and tips on how you can embrace this new way of working and unleash your full potential. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now. I'm Brad Hairston.
And I'm Michael Marchuk.
And this is the weekly Pulse Check, taking a look at some of the interesting stories in the world of automation and AI from the past week. So, Michael, let's dive right in. The first article comes from Wired, and it's titled, "Google Search is an Illegal Monopoly. U.S. Judge Rules." So, Michael, this comes after a year of the government taking Google to trial. They've been at it for a while. And the article talks about this very significant finding that Google has violated antitrust laws. Now, we'll have to see if it holds, right? I mean, Google probably has a few lawyers at their disposal. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, let me just Bing it. Well, hang on, let me just Yahoo it. Wait, nobody ever says that. We all say, let's just Google it, right? So I think when you have the name of your firm starting being embedded into your language as a verb, you have to realize that perhaps there's something going on, right? And I think it leads to a couple of things. One is that their technology really was and is one of the best in the world. It is the best in the world when it comes to search. People think of Google because they have a fantastic search engine and a ton of data. And they've been doing this for a really long time and honed it down. So their search capabilities, I think, are second to none. I think where it comes down to, though, is some of the business relationships behind the scenes that become the monopolistic issue. Having Apple paying to have their searches go through Google. Having the concept of having Google ads, which are very, very, well respected by the industry for people to find content and whatnot, or have their content be found. These are things that people are using all the time. Then you have if you're not an Apple iPhone user, you're probably a Samsung or an Android user of some kind, which then has the Google Chrome browser. So this article mentioned that roughly 70% of all queries, if you just pop open your phone and look for something, it's likely going through Google. So because of all that, it becomes a very centralized platform.
Yeah,
not a bad thing from a technical perspective, but a bad thing from a business perspective, which is where they come in.
Yeah. I mean, they already have highest market share in the search space, but then the fact that they're paying Apple and Samsung to promote or use their search engine on their devices, you can see how that would raise the hairs on the backs of the neck of the U.S. Justice Department. So very interesting story. We'll have to see where that goes. It has impacts on virtually all other areas of the technology base. One thing we've been talking a lot about, some of the Gen AI providers talking about getting into search. So I'll be curious to see how they respond, and if this maybe prompts some of them, like OpenAI, to add a Gen AI powered search engine to their platform. That's been the talk now for quite a while. Well, let's move from there to the second article. It comes from the Register, and it's titled, "Automation Needed to Fight Army of AI Content Harvesters Stalking the Web." Now, this reads like something right out of Minority Report. I was thinking about those spiders in the movie that can go into buildings and seek out perpetrators. And
that hurts my eyes just thinking about it.
That's right. So, peeling the eye back, looking at your retina. This is dealing with the web content crawlers that the big Gen AI providers are using to go out and get content, to scrape websites. So this is not done by an army of people. There are people that do a lot of it, but they now have they have had for a while, these web crawlers. And as AI has proliferated, the web crawlers have proliferated, and they're chewing up a lot of time and energy and really causing various forms of havoc. So what are your thoughts on this whole dilemma with the content harvesting bots, if you will?
Well, you mentioned this. We talked about the last article with Google, and you said, well, what if OpenAI starts doing this from a search perspective? And they are starting to look at this. So even the last few weeks here, we've had OpenAI released their search bot. Meta has their external agent that's running. Apple's got their Apple bot that's running. So these firms are doing that, where that search capability requires data. Now, Google's been doing this for a long time, but other search engines have been doing it as well. And now these AI engines have been harvesting data for search, but also likely for training. So there's a combination of both of those things that each of these AI companies are looking at. But it gets back down to that whole fair use concept, is if I can find this data and I as a human can read it and learn about it, what implications are there then to have these robots go out there and quickly gather all of the information we have that maybe took us years or decades to produce, and now it's free and available by these bots, which then turn it into meta content. They summarize it and then provide that back. And there's a couple of things. One is the content itself and the access to it. That's an issue. But this article actually brings up a different aspect of it, as what if they get it wrong when they do the summarization and provide you with steps or hints or tips or tricks or whatnot that were based on some documentation but are inaccurate.
Yeah.
And this particular website identified that if, it was a simple explanation of, hey, we repair phones and we have a whole bunch of specific guides on how to repair your phone in terms of replacing the battery or whatever the issues are. And they said, if you followed the instructions that were provided by, in this case, the Anthropic Claude bot, you would ruin your phone because you've done it wrong. Even though they used our data to be able to train it by pulling this information off, by the summary itself, it was incorrect.
Right.
So now you're worried about, well, what happens here? They're taking my data, but they're ruining it and wrecking the experience for the customer, perhaps in a damaging way. So it does offer some questions on how best to do it. Because when you do a Google search or any kind of search for that matter, if you use Bing or Yahoo, perhaps, you're getting the source documents. It's finding them and giving you the source documents so you can do that analysis yourself and read through the steps and understand it. Versus now you've abstracted that with the AI agent and you're hoping that the AI agent summarizes it correctly. And so there's a question there.
Yeah. Boy, the quest for data just continues to come up, doesn't it? It's one of the bigger topics within the Gen AI space, and you're seeing it in different forms. This is just yet another example of the methods companies are going to just to get as much data. The article mentions Anthropic's Claude bot, which is one of their web content crawlers, and it actually visited a website to get content 1 million times over a 24-hour period. So these are,
just in case, you never know when that period may have changed to a comma, right? You just don't know.
They're pretty ruthless. This is crazy. So it's an interesting topic for sure, one that we'll have to keep our eyes on. The third article comes from Time, and it's titled, "Why So Many Bitcoin Mining Companies Are Pivoting to AI." Now, this doesn't make me feel good about my Bitcoin portfolio that I'm counting on to do good things in the coming years. But it's basically saying that Bitcoin mining companies have started swapping out some of their mining equipment in favor of rigs used to run and train AI systems, because there's a shortage of data centers and these companies are not getting the return on Bitcoin that they projected. So why not go and redirect and get on the AI train and start, hosting some of these systems that are needed to support Gen AI and host all this data that the harvesting bots are pulling in. So what do you think about this whole trend with Bitcoin mining companies, Michael?
I think this is a very good and ingenious move that they're making, because the transition from Bitcoin started with CPU miners back in the day, and those were very inefficient in terms of some of the calculations they had to do. And these Bitcoin mining organizations decided that, hey, listen, GPUs actually function very well for the kind of calculations we need. So they started buying up lots and lots of NVIDIA GPUs, which NVIDIA was thrilled to sell to anybody and everybody, right? And so you no longer have, one or two of them in your machine. You'd have 10 of them in your machine, so you could be actively mining, your Bitcoin 24 hours a day and making money, have a little money-making rig. And then the transition went from those GPU miners, which were efficient to a certain point, but they found even better ways to do that, which is to create specifically designed application-specific integrated chips, ASICs, that actually did the algorithms and did that even faster than the GPUs.
Right.
So then GPUs now were sort of out of vogue, but they had all these GPUs that they're still using, so they're not going to throw them away, but they really wanted to focus on the newer hardware, which was much, much more tuned for that kind of activity. Well, once that Bitcoin halving event created a less attractive reason to be mining Bitcoin, now these organizations are stuck with a whole lot of hardware. What do we do with this? We bought all this NVIDIA stuff before, and we're really not making any money at it here. But by gum, we could use that to use it for AI training or AI services, because now we have all this hardware and we're used to having it in a very large rack-filled data center with all the power we need to do this work. Maybe this is a new way to pivot our income stream to hosting AI. So I think it's a really good move for these organizations. I still think the power requirements for AI are extremely high. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to address that with technology solutions soon. But I think it's a great move for them.
And according to the article, 14 of the major Bitcoin mining companies have seen their market cap jump by as high as 22% since they started this strategy of redirecting and using their equipment for AI. So perhaps this is paying off for them. We'll see. I think at some point Bitcoin's going to surge, and they're going to say, "Gosh, we got to shift back, get rid of all these AI servers, go back to Bitcoin mining." But who knows? Who knows if that will ever happen? All right. Well, thank you for joining. This is all the time we have for the Pulse Check. Remember, we publish a podcast with an incredible guest every week, so we hope you tune in to that as well. But thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of intelligent automation, subscribe now. The future of work is here.